Top 10 highest grossing movies of all time, adjusted for inflation. Hey there hustlers, welcome to Forever Hustle. In today's video we'll be looking at the top 10 highest grossing movies of all time, adjusted for inflation. So it's not simply about the numbers, so if you're expecting Avatar or maybe Avengers End, you might be in for a shock. Make sure you watch the video to the very end, as the movie in the number 1 spot will definitely surprise you. Number 10. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Snow White is one story that needs no introduction. Anyone who watches television at all would have seen or at least heard of it, no matter how young or old you are. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is one of the oldest animated movies in the world, and it was Disney's first feature film. It was a massive success. During its first run in 1937, the movie earned $66.6 million at the box office. However, the film made even more money in its 1983, 87 and 93 re-releases. The unadjusted earnings of all the films add up to over $184 million. That might not seem like much, but you have to keep in mind that the original release was over 80 years ago. Adjusted for inflation, this movie made about $1.7 billion. Not bad for Disney's first ever animated movie. Keep watching to find out the highest grossing movies of all time adjusted for inflation. It's definitely not any of the movies you're thinking right now, we promise you. If you've been enjoying this video so far, please take out the time to hit the subscribe button. Currently 90% of you guys who watch our videos aren't subscribed to the channel. If you don't subscribe, you might miss out on our exciting videos about making money and becoming financially independent. Subscribing is totally free, so be sure to hit the big red subscribe button and the bell notification. Let's get on with the video. Number 9. The Exorcist. This 1973 horror film that follows the demonic possession of a 12-year-old girl and the attempts of her mother to rescue her through an exorcism was a film so shocking that everybody just had to see it. The Exorcist first opened to only 30 screens. After Warner Brothers discovered the large crowds the film was able to pull in, they decided to expand. They allowed the world to get a taste of this controversial horror. After its initial release, The Exorcist made it to theatres again in 2000 and 2010 with extended scenes. Altogether, the movie sold over 100 million tickets, which equates to an adjusted sale of about $1.85 billion. Number 8. Dr. Zhivago. Dr. Zhivago is a romantic drama set in Russia in the period between World War I and the Russian Civil War, right at the peak of the Russian Revolution. This movie made massive breakthroughs in the US and around the world. Although the film was a huge success both with finance and the attention it got, it also faced a lot of criticism for being too long, with a runtime of 3 hours. Critics also called it a playdown and over-romantic handling of a serious and historical subject matter. However, the movie was able to walk away with 5 Academy Awards, plus $112 million in its first theatrical run. When adjusted with economic factors and today's ticket prices, this would bring the earnings to about $2 billion. Number 7. Jaws. Jaws is a success story that managed to smash records both locally and internationally upon its release. It basically set the bar for what summer blockbuster movies would be for years in the future. The 1975 release followed the story of a large man-eating great white shark and its attacks on summertime beachgoers. Steven Spielberg, the maker of the movie, created it on a budget of just $9 million. Reports say he was initially given only $4 million, but by the time production began, it was already a little over budget. The original idea was to use a mechanical shark, which is probably the best they could do as of 1975, considering there was no good CGI available. But the mechanical shark, later nicknamed Bruce after Spielberg's lawyer, continued to malfunction. So Spielberg had to make the movie in such a way that the vicious, bloodthirsty killer would hardly be seen at all. The managing studios thought this was a foolish idea, but to everyone's surprise, it worked out pretty good. The film made a total of $260 million, and is still seen as one of the best movies ever. Based on adjusted estimates, the film would make somewhere around $2.05 billion in today's ticket prices. Number 6. The Ten Commandments. This is one of the biggest Bible story movies ever made. The Ten Commandments tells the story of Moses and the exodus of the Israelites from Egypt in a very unique manner. And this uniqueness added to the storytelling in the film and paid off big time. The movie cost the studio about $13.2 million to produce. At the time, this was the most expensive film budget ever. However, it would prove to be a very wise investment, as the film was able to record roughly $1 million in sales every week for the first 10 weeks of release, even though it was originally being shown in only 80 theatres. After making adjustments for inflation, this movie would have earned about $2.2 billion at the box office. Number 5. Titanic. We don't need to say too much about this one, do we? Titanic at one point was pretty much the most popular movie in the world. Before even making the adjustments for inflation, this high sea romance is the 6th highest grossing film at the domestic box office and the 3rd highest grossing film globally. The movie has made it to theatres 3 times. After its initial run, it got a 3D release and a 20th anniversary re-release. This all adds up to a profit of about $658 million. Adjusting for inflation, this movie would have earned about $2.3 billion. Number 4. E.T. the Extraterrestrial. This is another movie by Steven Spielberg, and this time, no scary sharks. Just a boy and his alien buddy. In its first release in 1982, the movie recorded earnings of more than $430 million. The movie also saw 2 re-releases, in 1985 and 2002, which sold about 148 million tickets combined. This brings the adjusted earnings to about $2.3 billion US. Number 3. The Sound of Music. The Sound of Music is one of the most popular musicals in the world, and it's the only one that made it to this list of high earners. Although this movie was met with a lot of dismissal from East Coast critics that claimed it was sentimental, audiences still filled up the theatres to enjoy and join in the hum of its Rodgers and Hammerstein tunes. The Sound of Music was such a big hit that its theatrical release lasted 4.5 years in America. The movie also got a second release in 2018, which added up its ticket sales to about $158 million in the United States. With adjusted ticket prices and inflation, this movie would have made up to $2.4 billion. Number 2. Star Wars. This was a giant blockbuster that stole the hearts and minds of movie fans all over the world. The space epic elated the viewers with some excellent visual effects and a unique and intricate universe. George Lucas, the writer and director of the movie, had his doubts about how successful this movie would be leading up to its release. These doubts were completely crushed, as the movie was able to secure earnings of $460.9 million in the US after 2 re-releases since its first screenings in 1977. The movie was able to sell an estimate of 178.1 million tickets in total. Converting and adjusting that to modern box office prices, this movie would have earned $2.9 billion. If it's your first time here, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notification so you get notified when we upload a new video. With that out of the way, here is the highest grossing movie of all time. Number 1. Gone with the Wind. We wouldn't be surprised if you've never heard of this movie before, because it's really, really old. However, Gone with the Wind is the true highest grossing movie of all time, adjusted for inflation. Filmed in 1939, Gone with the Wind is a Civil War era romance that follows the story of Scarlett O'Hara, the strong-willed daughter of a Georgia plantation owner, and her pursuit of love. This film is proof of the power and popularity of Hollywood filmmaking at its best. Although the movie might not have aged well, as a result of some outdated ideologies practiced in its 4-hour runtime, the success it recorded is second to none. The film recorded an average audience population of about 11,000 each day at its peak, and they were able to sell about 60 million tickets in the US only. Their unadjusted earnings were recorded at $400.2 million, which isn't bad on its own. However, after adjustments, this movie stands at an earning of $3.4 to $3.8 billion. And with that, our beloved Marvel superheroes are gone with the wind. That is all for today's video, guys. If you enjoyed watching this, here are 2 more videos that we think you would love. Be sure to check them out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and in the words of my favourite supervillain, Luke, stay hustling.